Hi, my name is Jen, and today I wanted to do a book review and share my thoughts on Mari Kondo's life-changing magic of tidying up and how this book has impacted my life. So some points that I love about the book. I really love that it lives up to all of the hype. I'm sure you've met tons of people who have read this book or recommended it, or you can find lots of other book recommendation videos on this particular book online. There does seem to be quite a cult following, and there is a reason for that. It really does promise all that it delivers. I've read a lot of books that promise a lot, and I read the books and then I end up walking away feeling kind of cheated a little bit. But this book, that is definitely not the case. It really has changed my life in so many different ways, and it's very, very, very helpful and practical and just all around good. So it's definitely wonderful. Another thing that I really like about the book is that it's very, very well written. It's, as you can see, quite a small book, so it's very easy to read. There are lots of different little sections and headings, so you can go through and read it at your own pace. You don't have to commit to a full chapter each time you sit down. You can just read a little section or heading and still get a lot of information to be able to digest, or practical tips to then apply. So this is just very, very well written, very easy read, and wonderful in that way. Another thing that I really like about this book is it has a wonderful layout. So just opening up to the table of contents, you can see there are about 5 chapters, but there's tons of little sections and headings within each chapter. So that, again, just makes it very easy to just kind of go through. You can pick this book up, and by looking at the table of contents, you can know exactly what's in the book, which is really, really helpful and wonderful. So the basic outline is she explains in kind of the first chapter her kind of process and how she came up with this theory or this method. It's something she's been very passionate about all throughout her life, and she's tried lots of different methods and techniques, and she really goes through all of those and then also explains why they don't work. And I think that's really helpful because you can kind of, as you're going through, it really kind of sets the foundation and really just helps you to kind of be on board with where she's going. And so that way you are more likely to succeed if you follow through with the process. Her big, kind of 2 of her big points are to discard things first, and really just discarding is kind of like the big kind of part of the method. And I think that's really important. She highlights lots of really good reasons why, but I think it's really helpful because then you're not trying to find places for things that you don't need. So if you go through and discard the things first, then when you go to organize and clean and find a place for everything, it's stuff that you will be keeping. So that's really helpful. She does have some really good tips for discarding. She says that it's best to only keep what sparks joy, and she recommends touching each item individually to really see if it sparks joy or makes you happy, or it's an item that you really love. And then the next tip she has is to go by category, to do one category at a time. If you're doing clothing, do clothing all at once. If you want to break down one of her categories a little bit smaller and you want to just go through mugs instead of like all of the cups, you want to just focus on mugs, you can do that. But she definitely recommends going through all of the items in that category in one sitting. So all of your clothes have to be gone through at one point, and that way you can really see all of what you have and really assess whether or not you need it or want it. So if you go through it in little kind of bits and pieces, you won't get that overall benefit and effect. So that's something that's also really helpful. She also has a category order. She says that it's best to begin with the things that are kind of physically closest to you. So it's best to start with clothing, and she has an order within the clothing of how to go through things, and then it continues from there. So beginning with clothing and then ending with sentimental items, which are very hard to go through and get rid of. So she saves that for the end, once you have the momentum going and once you kind of have built up or identified your either taste or what it is that really sparks joy. So that's really helpful as well. Another chapter, I think it's chapter 3 or 4, she talks about how to store and display things in a way that makes you happy. I think that's also really important. You want to pay attention to function and practicality, of course, but I think it's also really important to pay attention to what will make you happy. Finally, in the last chapter, she talks about the benefits of tidying up. And I think this is really helpful as well. I think that by decluttering your physical space, you really begin to also evaluate other areas of your life. And I think that's really cool. And she goes into a little bit more detail some of those things. But yes, it's a very, very well written book, very nicely outlined, and very practical and helpful. So I really appreciate that. So some of my background, I grew up in a family with not a whole lot of money. We didn't always have a whole lot of extra money to cover basic things, and sometimes it was just really difficult. Thankfully, there were a lot of people who were very helpful and generous, and we did receive lots of donations. I do like secondhand things, but sometimes with that type of upbringing, there's also this kind of expectation or pressure that you are to keep everything, and if you don't, then you're not grateful. And so we ended up holding on to a whole bunch of things because, you know, we were in need, and so it really didn't make sense to get rid of something, even if it wasn't a good quality piece or it wasn't something that we liked or was to our taste or anything like that. We really didn't feel comfortable getting rid of things. And so I kind of grew up with that mentality. And you also kind of, as you grow up a little bit more on the poor side, you almost kind of develop a little bit more of an emotional attachment to things just because they're so hard to come by. You really kind of value and treasure and want to hold and keep close kind of all of those things. And so that's also something that I have kind of struggled with a little bit. And also for me personally, I am a people person. I like to make people happy, and I don't like to make people sad. And so if somebody gives me something, I really feel extra obligated to keep the item, even if it's not something that really suits me or fits me very well. So that's another kind of layer that I'm dealing with. So when I came across this book, it was just, it was amazing. It totally changed my life. And I found that by using this method, I was really able to declutter a good half of my belongings. And since I've applied the method and read the book, and I continue to apply the method, I've found that I don't buy as many things, which is helpful, saves some money, but I also don't spend as much time shopping or cleaning as I maybe would have in the past. And I think that's something that this book really highlights as well. Having a whole bunch of things really takes a toll on you and really can cause some other issues. When you have a lot of things, you not only have those things, but you have to find places for them, you have to maintain them, you have to care for them. And so the less stuff you have, the less time you have to spend dealing with those items. So I found that I don't have to spend as much time cleaning. I'm able to just have the items that I need, only the furniture that I need for the kind of more minimal items that I need, and then I can just clean and keep up with those things. My cleaning routine is very, very manageable now. It's very doable for me, and I just really, really appreciate that. Growing up, I wasn't really able to learn as much about having a kind of weekly cleaning routine for like a house or anything like that, and so this has really enabled me to make sure that I'm living in a clean, functional, beautiful home, and so I really appreciate that. The other thing is I just appreciate how this book gives you a method that I think can work for everyone, but it's also uniquely tailored for each person. So kind of sounds a little ridiculous, but because the method is centered around keeping what sparks joy for you, what sparks joy for each person is going to be very different. It's very individual. So for some people, it may be very, very minimal things, and that may suit their life the best. For other people, it may be, a few more things. They may like hosting or something, so they may have a few more items, but it's also still something that's manageable for them. And then for others still, they may like to have lots of things around them, reminding them of all of these wonderful times, and that's perfectly fine, but that's their choice, and then they're able to get the most out of those things. So I really, really appreciate that aspect as well. I found that this book is just so helpful. It's very easy, it's practical. It really has changed my life by saving me lots of time and money, and I've really also just found that I'm so much happier because I'm surrounded by the things that bring me joy. So yes, I definitely recommend this book. I've recommended it to anybody that will listen to me talk about it. I hope you have a great day. If you'd like to see a review on Spark Joy, please like this video and let me know in the comments down below. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.